Let's go. And today, in today's episode, in today's episode of the show, we are joined by a photographer by the name of. In today's episode of the show, and I trust. Why you? He's here with me, learning telecommunications. Oh, I'm lying. Comsci, bro. Hello everyone, welcome back to the episode of the Creators Connect series. My name is Luca, but you can call me that camera guy. You're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your love and support. I truly appreciate it. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing if you like this video. In today's episode of the show, we are joined by a photographer by the name of Nyasha Talani here, who runs a brand called Tara Mufasa Photography. The man is an absolute talent, very good with the camera, and he's got a knack and an eye for different angles and concepts when it comes to setting up the scene. I've had the privilege and honor of actually working with him in person in a number of projects, and I've learned so much from him. I do hope that you guys enjoy our conversation, and I do hope that you guys can learn a thing or two from my conversation with Tara Mufasa. Just sit back, relax, and let's connect with Mufasa. So thank you so much, Mr. Nyasha, for being here and joining us. I'm gonna address you by Nyasha. I'm more used to addressing you as Tara, but I'm gonna address you as both. But I think just formally to get you introduced, you are Nyasha Taranike, and just please tell us a little bit more about yourself. I think I've had the pleasure of knowing you and working with you quite a bit, but the people that are tuning into the podcast know nothing of you, at least some of them. So can you please introduce yourself, tell them who you are as a creative and who you are as an individual?
I mean, not to go against what you said, but I just mean for simplicity's sake, you can just refer to me as Tara or Mufasa.
We love calling you Tara Mufasa. We love that. We love that so much.
Yeah, I'm Tara Mufasa Photography. Basically, I've just been doing photography now for almost 2 years. I'm coming up on 2 years now. Been creative all my life, but in different other like spheres and realms, specific to like photography, just like almost 2 years now, basically.
We love to see it on us. Actually gonna tap into that aspect of photography. It's like, why photography? It's become so pronounced and it's become something we identify you as. Like, I know you as a photographer. I know you're mentioning now that, okay, you've dabbled and been into other creative aspects, but photography is what's become so pronounced in your life. And why photography? What's so special about it? What makes it so different? What about it appeals to you?
I'd say, and as far as art, like, while I do love music and all of that, I'd say the best, or like the most type of art I really appeal to, or that appealed to me, was like visual. And I was really into drawing, painting. I was more like, I did art in high school and primary school, obviously. But then I feel like I kind of outgrew like drawing and painting, and photography was the best way to do that. And also mix in like my love for computers and technology. So it was like a good mesh together, like just doing photography instead of just painting and art. Or I can still do both now, but just a bigger component that I like right now is photography.
Okay, so what was it in your life? Mentioning now that you were into art and drawing and things like that, what was it in your life that sort of pushed you or shaped you into that direction? Was it someone in your family that was into art, or it just kind of was innate in you, just happened as you grew that you were attracted to this thing called art and drawing? Any defining moments?
Just as far as my like family, I'd say I'm actually like the black sheep when it comes to family, in the sense that I'm the autistic one, and then everyone else is like just business, accounting, and stuff like that. I mean, a couple, not to bring it too personal, but a couple of my like siblings, as in my little brother, he's into art now, but I feel like that's because of me. I really try to put him onto that. But and as far as inspiration to make it photography, that's really just like, I can't really think of a specific moment where I just wanted to switch. But just from my perspective, I don't think it came from any other source besides within, that's just something like I had the conviction just to do, you know.
Yeah. So you've been in the game now 2 years, right? It's
Mm.
crazy. It feels like we're bouncing around so many different topics, but you're such an interesting guy. But you've been in the
No, man,
game
love.
you've been
Mm.
in the game 2 years now, and obviously who you were 2 years ago, the way you took photos 2 years ago, isn't the same thing now. You've
Mm.
definitely learned things, and you've definitely grown, and I've seen it, and I love to see it. We love to see it. Um, but behind the scenes, the things that we don't see for you personally in your creative journey, what have you learned? What do you look back and say, flip, if I knew this 2 years ago, things would have been different? Or I'm glad I went through this process and it has made me who I am. Sort of like a behind the scenes, more inward type of learning aspects that you've gone through.
I'd say over 2 years, especially in the first year, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things I have learned. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them might be technical, but then there's just like even outside of photography,
Yeah.
not just business wise, but just street wise. Or it's like being street smart
Yeah.
and learning
Same,
like
bro.
how to handle not handle people, but how to conduct yourself best around people and be well
Mm,
mannered around people. I'd say
mm,
most recently, what I've recently really learned in that regard is like you have to always like be set about what you want to do and what you
mhm.
stand for. Because if you aren't, then people are just going to do what they want with you. That's what I've
That's
really noticed
huge.
now. Like, if you
Mm,
don't set the tone on what you want it to be, people will set the tone for you. And it might not be something
mm,
you'd want to do. And it might be compromising on your values and morals if
mm,
you don't let them know how you feel about something immediately. Most
mm.
definitely.
That's a huge caveat. I mean, that's huge. And I was going to say a caveat is that I had the pleasure of working with Tara Mufasa actually. Maybe was it last week, a couple weeks back, and I was literally talking to him about that aspect of not letting people trample on you, sort of stating your fact or what you believe in, so that people don't take advantage of you. And he was teaching me that aspect,
Mm.
I guess. And during that very shoot we were working together on, the people we're taking photos of kept begging me to take photos, and I was there like, just let me do it once. And Tara's like, Luca, let's go, cut it. And I think in the moment, like you're saying, it seems harsh, but when people look at you, they respect you for it because you've got a standard
Mm.
and you uphold it. So if you're
Mm.
fluctuating between what you've determined to be an hour shoot and sometimes you do an hour 20 minutes and an hour 15 minutes, people are really not going to take you seriously, and they're going
Mm.
to take advantage of you with that. So I think that's a really huge thing. That's a really big thing, and I've learned that from you. And it's dope to see how you just don't speak about it because you had spoken about it right before, and then I saw it in action. I was like, dang, that's harsh. I was like, dang, that's harsh. But when I got back home and I was reflecting upon the day and the experience, I was like, now that's a man who lives by his word. You know what I mean? And I think that goes
Mm.
beyond you as a creative person, which is very different. I've never actually had people on the podcast who have actually worked with. It's always people I'm like, we should work together sometime. We should work together sometime. So I think it's different for me sitting here and being able to pick your brain a little bit more, because I've had the pleasure and honor of working with you, which is an absolute honor, to say the least.
No, I definitely
Um,
appreciate you for that. But yeah.
mm, but I've had a lot of people who I've told I'm sitting with you today, and a couple of them, maybe two or three, were like, "Can you please ask him where Tara Mufasa comes from?" So, so people want to know. People are intrigued. People are very interested with your name, and
I
would
see.
love to know the backstory.
Just in as far as backstory, I also happened to play basketball, and
Okay,
just
okay.
in high school, that was just a name that was given to me. Like when we were playing pickup, not in high school, sorry, a year after high school, when I just graduated high
Mm-hmm,
school, I had a couple gap
mm-hmm,
years, and I pretty much just like earned that name from friends that they just like from the way I played. They're like, "Nah, that's a nickname that would fit," and it stuck. So that's pretty much what I wanted to name my creative, like photography and things like that. It's just a name I got from
mm-hmm,
basketball and just translated it through
mm-hmm,
to the photography side of things.
mm-hmm. And I mean, on that topic of basketball, for those, I mean, now people know, but you play basketball for the university,
I do.
um, which
I
which
do.
which is in itself as a co-curricular activity. It's demanding of you a lot,
Mm.
and you are doing what degree again?
Computer science.
I, my God, that's demanding in itself. That's very
Definitely.
demanding.
Mm,
So there's definitely an aspect of discipline that comes in, and finding a balance between these three things: basketball, photography, creativity, and the degree program. And then there's a social life as well that you need to maintain. How are you balancing all that?
I'd say it's tough. When I try to mix in the
mm,
social aspect, that's when things really
mm.
get tough. I'll
Gets
say
tricky.
definitely. Like most
Mm,
recently now, I'd say I'm battling an injury. And if I'm
mhm,
honest, if I really took care of my body and steered away from all of the like social aspects of my life, I probably wouldn't
mm.
have had this injury that I'm dealing with now. And it would have been
Wild,
easy to
wild.
balance the sport and the academics. But at the moment,
Mm,
I'm just trying to recover from the injury that I have, come back and be better than I was before the injury. And
mhm,
that's pretty much where my headspace is with that. But right now, I've
mhm.
really learned time management and
It's
a matter of
huge.
getting the job done as soon as you have time to do it. Don't
Mm.
wait because you have time. If you have time at all, just get it done and out the way,
Get it
and you
done.
won't have to worry about it ever again. And it won't pile up and accumulate over time if you just get it done.
Procrastination is a big thing. I think
Mm,
speaking for myself, I definitely do struggle. It's always I'll do it later. Not now. I'm feeling tired. Uh, but I think you're a very principled man, and I will speak uh, and testify that it's not just words that this man is speaking about. Is definitely resolute in what he says and really acts it out. So I think I can definitely learn a lot from you. And I think a lot of people as well can learn a lot from you. It's if you have the time and do it in that time. Don't put it
mm,
to later because what you realize, what I've realized is I procrastinate on two different things and realize that they're all meeting the same deadline. And if I had done them
mm.
in the time that I had, I would have not found myself in that space with all that amount of pressure. But I think your photography career kind of started here in South Africa. You said 2 years. That's
Mm.
about right, right? You were in university when you got your camera and you started taking photos and things like that.
No, I definitely only started when I was in university. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
say before university, I had a whole bunch of ideas of what I wanted to do. There's
Okay.
so many things, so many artists I'd seen have their own work. I just not so much didn't have the means, but didn't have the volition to just get it done. But when I came to
Ah.
uni, I was like, no, I'll just do it, get it started, make sure I like um, put my foot in the door at least and
Mm-hmm.
cement something to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
that you can
And
make
you
something greater at the end of it.
and you did, and you definitely cemented something very significant in such a short space of time as well. And I think you've got a very good support system in terms of the friends that you have and the network that you've got going on. But I think my question is more around the fact that a lot of what you've done with photography so far has been in a foreign country, um, in South Africa. And how has that been for you, uh, building this thing in a land that's not your own?
I
Or
would
has it been a
say
breeze?
I would say the people here make it feel like it's home. I think that's also a big thing about it. Like
That's huge. That's huge.
you never feel like you're intruding on someone or like stepping on anyone's toes. They're just
Mm,
as open and creative as you are. So it's pretty much a
mm,
reciprocal situation where you're both learning from each other, building from each other. And yeah, I'd say the people here like they're more creative than like I am, at least like from a lot of the
mm-hmm.
people I've met and had in my company. It's more so like me speaking through them in a way with my art. So
That's
it's not so much
wild.
that I'm the creative one, but I'm just doing what other people have done in this medium that I have made. You feel? Mm,
Mm. So now there's a bit of a contrast and an interesting concept that comes into play. It's that you're meeting all these people and you're kind of complementing each other in terms of creativity. They're making you feel at home, and you're sharing what you've learned and complementing each other, working together, collaborating. But then it's also a very competitive space, right? You need to make a living. You need to get the clients uh, as much as they do. Now, how do you equally stay competitive, but also equally stay collaborative in a space like that? You know what I mean?
I'd say the best balance of the two is the fact that I'm not here to compete because I know what I'm capable of. I know like no one can
Huge,
do it how I
huge,
do it. Simple.
huge.
Like there's no discussion or debate about it. No one can do it the way
Mm,
I do. But even though they can't do it the way I do, I can't do it the way they do. So I can definitely
Madness.
learn from them regardless. Like
Mm,
I'm not gonna be on my high horse saying, "Oh, you can't do it like me."
mm.
And but I'm also not gonna be shy when I see you do it the way you do it. Like I trust myself, also trust the fact that if you're open-minded, I can learn from you as well. So it's just a balance. It's just a duality to it.
It is. It's huge, and I think that's what makes it interesting to realize. I think I was talking to you today because we had a shoot, and I was like, "This dude came all the way from Cape Town to Stellies to have a shoot with you. Like, how many photographers did it drive past by?" And I think it's like when he sees your work, it appeals to him. And like you're saying, no
Mm,
one all the way from Cape Town shoots the way you shoot, and he's like, "That's
mm,
the style I want." So. Uh, it's about building a brand that's uniquely identifiable. Uh, People will be like, "How many shops did you walk past by until you got to the Nike store, took up the Nike shoes? Aren't they selling shoes as well?" But it's like, no, I want the Nike shoes. The way they
mm,
present themselves as a brand, it's the way they conduct themselves and treat their customers. So they're like, "Yo, when I deal with Tara, I get my stuff in that time. When I deal with Tara, I get quality service. He asks me questions, he engages in conversations. So it's things that define you over and above the photos you take that make you unique now. And it's like, and as much as I'm sharing what I know technically, there's stuff that I do um, innately that no one else can do, and that's what makes us unique and keeps us competitive, I think. And I think that's a huge thing, like you're saying, no one else can do it the way you do. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I
mm.
think I engaged in a conversation with you before, and I think you mentioned that you're somewhat of an introvert. Yes.
I'd say for me personally, my natural default is to be an introvert, but I'd say
Okay.
throughout my life, I've learned how to not only be an extrovert, but how to interact with people, socialize with people, and have
Mm-hmm.
fun even when you'd have preferred to read a book. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
have fun when I'm around people. I can still have fun when I'm by myself. My natural default would be to be by myself, but I've still learned how to get the most out of interacting with people and having fun with them too, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Which is huge now because I think as well I can definitely relate to my default and my easy comfort space would be to be alone and be my own space. But now, as a creative, as a photographer, especially, you have to engage with your clients from the beginning, from the time they say, "I want to shoot." You're there asking them,
Mm,
"What location do you want to be in?" You need to be patient with them, you need to be um, responsive, you need to hear them out as well. And then on the actual day of the shoot, you need to be engaging in conversation and directing them. How have you then, learned to deal with clients who are a little bit tough to handle. You don't listen when you're directing and things like that. Because I struggle. I definitely struggle. And I think I was asking you as well things like how do you direct clients to pose? How do you tell them what to do and what not to do? How have you learned in such a short space of time? And I mean, 2 years is not a long time. You definitely had to grow out of yourself and deny your comfort, I guess, to be this person. And how have you done that?
I'd say experience. That's the biggest thing. Like, at the end of the day,
Mm,
what I really noticed in life, no matter what realm it is or what domain you might be in, if you lack the experience, people will eat you alive. They will see right
that's
through it, and there's
that's
no, there's
huge.
no, there's no running away from it. Like you just have to know
Mm,
not only know what you're doing, but have done it before, so that the person can tell you've done it before. Because people can tell.
mm.
People can tell when you've been doing it and you have experience and you've been successful in it, and it'll just show. It'll just show in your confidence. And confidence is something I've noticed and tried. You can't fake it. You have to just have it.
You have to just have it.
Mm,
But yeah, like you say, practice makes perfect.
mm,
Continuously experiencing it. I think I was talking to someone. I was like, experience is the best teacher. You can be shown and taught what ISO is all about and how to use it on your camera, but until you have a camera in hand and you're physically moving the dials by yourself, I don't think you can
mm,
fully ever be able to, say I understand or I know. So I think
mm,
experience and practice is a very, very good teacher when it comes to these things, and I appreciate
mm,
that point. Um, but I think it's been a lot of good things that has gone on with your brand in the last 2 years. A lot of growth, a lot of positivity. But there's so much tough things that go on behind the scenes that we aren't privileged enough to see, and I think that happens with everybody, with everybody's journey, creative or not creative. And what are some of the tough things that you've experienced in your creative journey? that you've had to deal with, and how have you dealt with it?
Tough things, I'd say the biggest one is that your your reputation is solely based on this specific realm. So when people see you, they just see you for that. That's one frustrating thing. Like I'll
That's
just be trying to
rough.
be, you know me, introvert default. So I'm trying to just go to get food in the meal seat, which is like a student area where we have food. And I have to pretty
uh,
much greet so many people that and
what?
that these are people I care about and have love for, but I just want to be by myself in that
It's so
specific moment of
true.
time. And
It's so true. I've
unfortunately, you
never
have to say
been
hi
with
to
you.
everybody.
I've never been with you on campus and not seen you greet at least three people. Like it's the wildest thing. You're constantly.
I mean, it comes with the territory. Even with just the socializing and the sports,
Yeah.
like you're gonna meet so many people you know, and like you care about them. It's not that you don't care about them.
What
It's just
facts?
I just I look dusty today, and I just want to be by myself. You know, it's just one of those things.
Nah, I love that. And how have you then
Mm.
been able to deal with that? Seeing that it's such a tough and difficult thing, what's your way of coping and
Um,
dealing with it?
you just pretty much greet them, be normal, just like be cordial, be not I'm trying to find the word, but be cordial. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, just like whenever you go out or anywhere, just be prepared to get a whole bunch of attention you don't want. Because that's the positive side of it. Maybe people are greeting you, but there's the negative side of it where people will heckle you or say all kinds of things like
Mm,
this and that. I've had
yeah.
so many shoots, especially if you're dealing with a model that's quite attractive in your shoots. You're
Mm,
gonna have to deal with a whole lot of heckling,
mm.
sometimes catcalling. Um,
Yo.
I've had situations where people try to get close, but you just have to make sure you're prepared to keep like your clients and your models safe. That's
Mm.
something I really, even before I had to deal with it, made sure I was aware of. Like I make sure I have everything I need to make sure they're safe.
Mm.
That's a big thing.
No, that's huge, and that's real. The aspect, and I think again, it's spilling over to what we talked about before about that there's certain things that you do as Tara that no one else does, you know. And people are like, I want to work with Tara because when I work with him, I feel safe, and that's huge. That's a
Mm.
selling point right there. It's like the way he treats me. Either it's a dude or it's a girl or it's a family, whatever it is. It's just like he treats people well. He takes care of his clients over and beyond what is actually required of him to do. You know, so that's huge, and I think that's such a beautiful aspect of you to have. And I think on the flip side, on the other end of the spectrum, what is uh, or what are the things that you value the most about being in a creative space? The things that you look at and you're like, this is the reason why I still post pictures on Instagram. I still want to take photos. I still want to invest in gear. It's these aspects about the creative space that make me want to do it more and more.
And as far as the things that people don't see,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the biggest thing to be simple is just the fulfillment. Even if you don't see it on the gram or anything, I just feel fulfilled when I do it, like even by myself. So that's one thing. And then, and as far as the things that other people see, just the fact that I can scale it to any level I want, and how well I do is just based on how well I work hard. And I just like the fact that
Mm.
it's in my control and I don't have to answer to anyone, and I can just do it however I like, however I please. Like no one can tell me
That's
anything
huge.
about my like creative arts and anything.
That's huge, and that's a huge selling point, I guess. If you're trying to sell creativity and art, it's that you aren't limited by anyone or anything. I think your biggest limitation is your mind and how creative you want to be. You can scale it up and
Mm.
you can experiment with cameras and lighting and all the stuff as much as you want to no bounds. There's really no law against what you can or cannot do. And I think that's what makes it such a beautiful and free, liberating process. I think the feeling that you get, like you said, is unmatched, and it's truly beautiful. The next question is a bit of a two-part question, very similar. And the first is that is this thing that you're doing, this photography thing, a long-term thing? I know you're studying right now, and do the two, what you're studying, your degree program and photography, both have a future in your life, or you're looking to have one be more dominant than the other?
Dominant might be the wrong word, but at the moment they still play an equal role. It's just a matter of which one I'd want to scale more as time like goes on. It's a really tough question to say at the moment because both I do want to continue with, but at the scales that I have in mind for both of them, they could be on par with each other. It's just a matter of which one I'd want to focus on at that moment in time.
I think in relation to that, then it's uh, more on the creativity side of it. What would you love Tara Mufasa to grow to become? What would you love it to be remembered for? 10, 15, 25 years from now, when they hear the name Tara Mufasa, what do you want them to associate that with?
I'd say there are definitely a lot of like huge things that I wanted to be associated with, but I'm the type of person where I'd rather show you than tell you. I do understand it's a podcast, but I'd rather show someone first because I do have a lot of ideas in mind, and it's more so I wouldn't want to talk about it until I've achieved it. But I do have a couple things I wanted to scale it up to, and I'm making my way to do it. I have everything in order to do it, and as far as my plan, and it might happen a lot more recent or soon than you think. So you might see it's eventually, like in the near future. But I do have a couple places I want to influence, at least the photography side of it too, at the moment.
No, we're definitely here for it, and we're looking forward to seeing it. You've already hyped us up, given us a teaser. We don't know what it is yet, but we're definitely going to be anticipating.
Mm.
We're definitely going to be anticipating for it, and we'll see what you have coming up for us. But yeah, I think I've pretty much exhausted the number of questions that I've had for you today, and I think I just have one more. Uh, I do
Mhm.
like to appreciate and say thank you for being here, taking time out of your schedule to sit down and chat with me. I really do appreciate the way you think. I really do appreciate the way you conduct yourself as a businessman, as a person, when it comes to photography and the creativity side of the things that you do. So this means a lot to me, and I hope people can learn a lot from the way you think when they tune into this podcast. So I appreciate it a ton, bro. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. Genuinely enjoyed the conversation, all the shoots we've
Hmm.
had together, all of
Yeah,
that stuff.
we
Learned a
should
lot from
we
you
should
as
definitely do some
well.
more.
That's another big thing.
Hmm.
And I just like to
Hmm.
say thank you for having me, pretty much.
No, we should definitely do it. We should definitely do some more. I would have said maybe one day we can work on some things, but we've definitely been working on some things already. So I love to see it. I love to see it. Yeah, but I think the
Mm.
question is, where do you draw your inspiration from? I've seen your photos and I've seen the way you take photos, and it's very unique. It's very different. I think when it
Mm.
comes to Tara is the only one who does what Tara does. I think no one can argue there. I can definitely see it, and I'm definitely intrigued by it and drawn to it. But where do you draw your inspiration from?
From a lot of art sources, whether it be
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
classical or modern,
mm-hmm.
um, if you just like tune into any type of artistic like space, a lot of the
Yeah.
work that I draw inspiration from is there. It could even be music, things I see in my day to day life, things I used to
Mm-hmm.
draw, things I draw now, like when I doodle. There's a whole bunch of places like, and even just dreams in general. Like if you remember your dreams, that's another like good place to find good inspiration from. If you can
That's
like remember
crazy,
them,
bro.
especially if they're lucid. Like I might just like jot down as soon as I wake up, so I don't forget. Just jot down everything I saw,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
just go
mm-hmm.
from there.
That's crazy. I was actually just now thinking about memories and remembering things and jotting things down. I think the part of jotting things down reminded me of a little bit of a creative block that I had last year, where I was in this space where I was I didn't have creativity in me. I didn't know what to do and I didn't know what to create. And I was starting to think of all the times I had ideas and I didn't write them down. And I kind of regretted not writing those ideas down for future use. But have you then ever gone through spaces where you don't particularly feel creative? And in those spaces, do you just force yourself to create for the sake of consistency, or there are ways that you recuperate and you take time away from creativity to re-energize? Because it can definitely be draining to be in a creative space, even though it's such a beautiful thing.
I mean, I'd say if you aren't willing to force yourself to do the hard things, you aren't willing to do it. So if there's
Bro,
any time I like,
madness.
let's say I have a
Madness.
block, I never really have a creative block. There's always an idea that I haven't executed on that I could.
Okay.
It's just a matter of
Hmm.
executing on it. And that's where I might have a block. I might
Okay.
feel like procrastinating, might feel like being lazy. And I mean, that's human, that's natural. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I do have other commitments, so that's another thing why I've never really had to so much as force myself with photography specifically. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely, if there's a hard thing to do and it needs to be done for me to do what I want to do, I'll do it. It's just that simple.
That's intense. That is intense. That's character right there. That's stuff you don't buy. That's stuff you don't teach. That's stuff people are just born with. Like honestly, and it's such a beautiful thing to see how you've been raised, how you've grown up. It's really 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 good. I think just to close this off, it's just like I just keep coming up with questions. It's that
No,
if
definitely.
if if you were to give any piece of advice to someone who is looking to dive into any kind of creative space, and they've got this entire journey ahead of them, and you're like, yo, I didn't know this when I started, but let me tell you something. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What is that piece of advice that you would give that person?
Um, I'd say humility is key, but it's a two-parter. Humility is key, but never sell yourself short. So if you can find a way to
Mm,
balance the two things, you'll be golden for the rest of your career.
humility is key, but never sell yourself short. We should put that on a T-shirt, on a billboard or something.
No,
I love that
definitely.
so much. I love that so much. But no, thank you so much, bro, for being here once again. It's been an
Mm.
honor. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to working with you again, and making more art, making more content. And I wish you all the best, bro.
Now, wish you all the best. Thank you for having me. And yeah, that's pretty much
It's
all from
been
my side.